Admiral Jake Morrison stared at the massive screen on his ship's bridge. The message from the Zephyrian Empire played again, filling the room with the cold voice of an alien commander. The creature had 4 arms and skin like blue metal. Its yellow eyes showed no emotion as it spoke. Humans of a small empire called Earth. The alien said, "You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Give us all your worlds, all your ships, and all your people. If you refuse, we will destroy everything you have built." Jake turned to Captain Lisa Hayes, who stood beside him on the bridge of the battleship Liberty's Dawn. Her face was pale, but her hands remained steady on her tablet. "How many ships do they have?" Jake asked. Lisa looked at her screen. "Our scouts counted over 10,000 warships at the edge of our space, maybe more hiding behind them. Each one is bigger than our largest battleship." Jake felt his stomach drop. Humanity had only 300 ships total, and most were old cargo vessels with guns bolted onto them. The math was simple and terrible. "What does the Galactic Council say?" Jake asked. Lisa's expression grew darker. "They voted to abandon us. Every single member species agreed that fighting the Zephyrians would be suicide. They told the Empire they won't interfere if we get wiped out." Jake walked to the large window that showed the stars. Somewhere out there, 10,000 alien ships waited to kill every human alive. Behind him, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. They all knew the numbers. They all knew what was coming. On Earth, President Marcus Webb sat in his office under the White House. His gray hair looked messy, and his tired eyes stared at the same message Jake had just watched. Around him, his advisors argued about surrender terms and evacuation plans. "Sir, we could save maybe 10% of our population if we start moving people now," said General Patricia Collins. "The Zephyrians might let some humans live as workers." Webb stood up slowly. His knees hurt from too many years carrying the weight of leading humanity. He looked out his window at Washington, where people walked the streets like any normal day. They didn't know yet that aliens wanted to kill them all. "No," Webb said quietly. "Sir," General Collins asked. "I said no." Webb's voice grew stronger. "We will not kneel to these aliens. We will not beg for scraps of life. We will fight." "Mr. President, with respect, we can't win this fight," said Secretary of Defense Robert Kim. 10,000 ships against 300. It's not a war, it's execution." Webb walked to his desk and pressed a button. Across the human colonies, every screen activated. People stopped walking. Workers paused at their jobs. Children looked up in schools. Webb's face appeared everywhere. "My fellow humans," he began, "an alien empire has demanded we surrender or die. They have more ships, better weapons, and the entire galaxy behind them. They think we will fall to our knees and beg for mercy." Webb paused and smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had made a choice that would change everything. "They are wrong. We will not surrender. We will not run. We will fight, and we will show these aliens what humans do when someone tries to destroy our families." Far away on Mars, Dr. Elena Price watched the president's speech while standing in a secret laboratory deep underground. Around her, hundreds of scientists worked on machines that hummed with strange energy. The project had no official name in any government files. The workers just called it Wild Card. "How much time do we need?" Elena asked her assistant, Dr. Carl Murphy. Carl looked at his computer. "At least a week to finish the tests. 2 weeks to be safe." "We have 72 hours, Elena said. Carl's face went white. "That's impossible. If we rush this, the process could kill everyone who tries it." "If we don't finish it, the aliens will kill everyone anyway," Elena replied. She walked to a window that showed the red surface of Mars. In the distance, she could see the lights of human cities. In 3 days, those lights might go dark forever. Elena picked up her phone and called President Webb. "Mr. President, this is Dr. Price. We need to activate Wildcard immediately. Are you ready?" Webb asked. "No, sir, but we're out of time." Back in space, Admiral Morrison received orders from Earth. He was to gather every human ship and prepare to fight the largest fleet in galaxy history. The message also contained something else, Authorization codes for Project Wildcard. Jake had heard whispers about the project, but never learned the details. Only the highest commanders knew what the scientists on Mars had been building. Now he was about to find out. Captain Hayes brought him a sealed envelope marked with the highest security level. Jake opened it and read the contents. His eyes grew wide. "Sir," Hayes asked, "what are your orders?" Jake folded the paper and put it in his pocket. "Send a message to every human ship, every colony, and every outpost. Tell them to prepare for total war." "What about the civilians?" Hayes asked. "There are no civilians anymore," Jake said. "Every human is a soldier now." On colony worlds across human space, people received a message. Teacher Amy Sullivan gathered her students and told them school was canceled forever. They were going to learn how to fight instead. Mechanic Tony Rodriguez closed the shop and started converting civilian vehicles into weapons. In the asteroid belt, mining foreman Pete Johnson looked at his crew of tough miners. They had been digging rocks out of space for years. Now they would use those same tools to dig graves for aliens. "Boys," Pete announced, "we're not miners anymore. We're soldiers." The Zephyrians waited at the edge of human space, confident and patient. They had conquered 3,000 worlds using the same method. First, they demanded surrender. Most species gave up immediately. Those who refused were crushed quickly by overwhelming force. Supreme Commander Thexari stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the human colonies through long-range sensors. The little creatures scurried around their worlds like insects before a flood. It would be over soon. "Have they responded to our ultimatum?" he asked his aide. "Yes, Commander." They refused to surrender. Thexari's 4 arms moved in what his species considered a shrug. "Then we will destroy them. Begin the attack in 72 hours. But the Zephyrians didn't know about Project Wildcard. They didn't know that humans had spent years preparing for this exact moment. They didn't know that every human colony was actually a fortress, every civilian was actually a soldier, and every ship was actually a weapon. Most importantly, they didn't know that when humans smiled in defiance, it meant they had a plan that would change the galaxy forever. The stars seemed to bend and twist as 10,000 Zephyrian ships dropped out of hyperspace. The alien fleet stretched across the darkness like a city of metal and light. Each ship pulsed with energy shields that could stop planet-killing weapons. Their plasma cannons glowed with power that had burned entire civilizations to ash. Supreme Commander Thexari stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. His 4 arms moved over control panels as he prepared to broadcast humanity's doom across the galaxy. This would be another easy victory to add to his long list. "Open channels to all human frequencies," he ordered. His image appeared on every screen in human space. From Earth to the furthest colonies, humans saw the alien commander's blue metallic skin and cold yellow eyes. "I am Supreme Commander Thexari of the Zephyrian Empire," he began. "Your 72 hours have ended. You chose to resist instead of accepting our mercy. Now you will learn why 3,000 worlds kneel before our power." The alien commander gestured with his 4 arms toward his massive fleet. "Look upon our strength and despair. We have conquered species far more advanced than your primitive race. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your ships are toys compared to our war machines. Surrender now, and some of you may live as our servants." From the Bridge of Liberty's dawn, Commander Ryan Clark watched the alien broadcast. Ryan led humanity's defense fleet, all 300 ships they could gather. His ships looked tiny compared to the alien armada. The odds were 33 to 1. Ryan activated his own broadcast system. His message went to every human ship and every colony world. His voice was calm and steady. "This is Commander Clark of the Human Defense Fleet. I have a message for the Supreme Commander and his alien friends." Ryan smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "Come and take it." The simple words echoed across space. On Earth, people in underground shelters heard the message and cheered. On colony worlds, families hugged each other tighter. In the asteroid belt, miners raised their tools like weapons. News anchor Kelly Wright broadcast from Luna Station, the moon base orbiting Earth. Her hand shook slightly as she read the reports, but her voice remained professional. "The alien fleet has begun moving toward our outer colonies," she announced. "Military experts estimate we have less than 6 hours before the first attacks begin. President Webb has declared that all evacuation efforts will continue, but many citizens are choosing to stay and fight." Kelly looked directly into the camera. Behind her, through the station's windows, Earth looked beautiful and peaceful. To anyone watching this broadcast, human or alien, know this: we will not go quietly into the dark. On Earth, ordinary people made extraordinary choices. Mechanic Tony Rodriguez worked in his garage, welding armor plates onto civilian cars. His neighbor, teacher Amy Sullivan, helped load ammunition into school buses that had been converted into mobile weapons platforms. "You sure about this, Amy?" Tony asked as he attached a rocket launcher to her bus. "You could evacuate with the kids." Amy checked her rifle and smiled. "The kids are already safe in the shelters. Now it's time to make sure they have a world to come back to." In the asteroid belt, mining foreman Pete Johnson gathered his crew around their massive industrial equipment. The miners had spent years using these tools to crack rocks and extract metals. Now, they would use them for something else. "Listen up," Pete told his 50-man crew. "These aliens think we're just dumb rock breakers. They're about to learn that anyone who can crack open an asteroid can crack open a spaceship." The miners cheered and began modifying their equipment. Ore extractors became missile launchers. Rock crushers became armor plating. Mining charges became bombs powerful enough to damage battleships. The Zephyrians attacked the outer colonies first, expecting quick victories. Their strategy had worked on 3,000 worlds. Overwhelming force followed by immediate surrender. The first target was New California, a farming world with 2 million humans. Thexari sent 50 ships to crush the colony and make an example for the rest of humanity. The alien ships entered orbit and began their attack. Plasma bolts rained down from space, designed to destroy the colony's defenses in minutes. But instead of the usual panic and surrender, something strange happened. The entire planet started shooting back. What the Zephyrians thought were farms were actually camouflage weapon installations. What they assumed were civilian buildings were actually fortified bunkers. What they believed was a peaceful agricultural world was actually a massive military base disguised as a colony. Colonel Danny Wright commanded the defense of New California from a bunker hidden beneath a cornfield. He watched the screens as alien ships tried to understand why their easy target had become a deadly trap. "All units," this is right, he broadcast. "Time to show these aliens what human farmers grow in their spare time." Across the planet, missile silos opened in wheat fields. Anti-aircraft guns emerged from fake barns. The Zephyrians found themselves being shot at by weapons hidden in every farm, every town, and every piece of seemingly innocent countryside. Engineer Katie Barnes ran her section of the defense from inside what looked like a grain storage facility. In reality, it was a command center controlling dozens of automated weapon systems. "Target the lead ship," she ordered her team. "Let's see how their shields handle a full-power mining laser." The beam that struck the Zephyrian cruiser had been designed to cut through solid rock. The alien ship's energy shield flickered and died. A second beam cut the ship in half. On his flagship, Thexari watched the impossible scene. His 50 ships were supposed to destroy the colony in minutes. Instead, they were losing ships to what should have been defenseless farmers. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. His aide studied the sensor readings. "Commander, the entire planet appears to be one massive weapons platform. Every structure, every vehicle, every piece of infrastructure has been converted into a weapon or defensive position." Thexari's 4 arms clenched into fists. "Then burn the entire planet from orbit." But when his ships tried to retreat to bombardment range, they discovered humanity's next surprise. Lieutenant Commander Steve Palmer led a squadron of human destroyers in an attack that violated every rule of civilized warfare. Instead of engaging in the traditional long-range battle, Palmer's ships charged directly at the alien fleet. They came in fast and close, too close for the big alien guns to track them properly. "All ships ram speed," Palmer ordered. "Show them what desperate humans can do." The human ships slammed into alien vessels like guided missiles. Some human crews ejected at the last second. Others stayed with their ships and died in explosions. The Zephyrians had never seen anything like it, where other species would retreat to preserve their forces. Humans doubled down and fought harder. Where civilized races would surrender when faced with impossible odds, humans smiled and looked for ways to hurt their enemies even while dying. On Mars, Dr. Elena Price watched the battle reports and knew humanity was running out of time. The brave defenders were buying precious hours, but they couldn't hold forever. How much longer? She asked Dr. Carl Murphy. Project Wildcard needs at least 48 hours for final testing, he replied. We have maybe 12 hours before the aliens reach Earth. Elena said, start the process now. But the test subjects could die, Carl protested. Elena looked at the screens showing human ships exploding in space. They're dying anyway. At least this way. Their deaths might mean something. She picked up her phone and called President Webb. Sir, we're ready to begin. Are you sure it will work? Webb asked. No, sir, but we're out of options. Across human space, the first volunteers stepped forward. They were pilots, soldiers, engineers, and ordinary people who wanted to save their species. They didn't fully understand what Project Wildcard would do to them. They only knew that humanity needed a miracle, and they were willing to die trying to create one. The Zephyrians pressed their attack, confident that human resistance would collapse soon. They had never met a species that fought like this, but they assumed it was just desperation. They were wrong. The humans weren't just desperate. They were angry, and they had a plan that would turn the entire war upside down. The defense of New California became the first real test of human ingenuity against alien technology. Colonel Danny Wright crouched in his underground command center, watching dozens of screens that showed the battle raging above his head. The Zephyrians had sent 200 more ships to crush what they thought was just a farming colony. They still didn't understand what they were fighting. Katie, how are those new modifications working? Danny asked into his radio. Engineer Katie Barnes answered from her position inside a fake grain silo that was actually a weapons control center. The harvester conversions are performing better than expected, sir. Turns out machines built to cut wheat work pretty well on alien hull plating. Across the planet, farming equipment that had been modified in secret revealed its true purpose. Combined harvesters rolled across fields with missile launchers instead of grain collectors. Tractors pulled trailers loaded with surface-to-air rockets. Even irrigation systems had been converted into fuel lines for massive flame weapons. In the town of New Sacramento, teacher-turned-fighter Amy Sullivan led a group of civilian volunteers. They had turned the local school into a fortress, with rocket launchers hidden in the playground and sniper positions in the clock tower. Remember, these aliens have never fought anyone like us, Amy told her team of former teachers, shop owners, and retired farmers. They expect us to run when things get tough. Instead, we're going to show them what humans do when someone threatens our children. A Zephyrian dropship landed near the school, disgorging alien soldiers in powered armor. Amy smiled and pressed a button. The school sprinkler system activated, but instead of water, it sprayed industrial acid that had been stored in the basement. The alien soldiers screamed as their armor dissolved. Amy's volunteers opened fire with hunting rifles and shotguns. It wasn't fancy, but dead was dead. Up in space, Lieutenant Commander Steve Palmer prepared for the most desperate gambit in human military history. His destroyer fighting spirit was damaged and running low on ammunition, but Palmer had one weapon left that the aliens couldn't defend against. All crew to escape pods, he ordered. I'm taking her in manually. Sir, you can't pilot the ship and escape, his second-in-command protested. Palmer smiled grimly. Not planning to escape, son. Someone needs to show these aliens that humans don't quit, even when we're dying. Palmer aimed his ship directly at the largest Zephyrian cruiser and pushed the engines to maximum. The fighting spirit accelerated like a guided missile, too fast for the alien point defense systems to stop. Palmer's ship punched through the cruiser's shields and hull, causing a chain reaction that destroyed both vessels. Similar scenes played out across human space. Where the Zephyrians expected orderly retreats and surrender negotiations, they found humans who fought with desperate creativity. Cargo ships loaded with explosives rammed alien vessels. Mining stations self-destructed as alien troops tried to board them. Even civilian evacuation ships were armed with hidden weapons. On his flagship, Supreme Commander Thexari stared at the battle reports in disbelief. His forces were winning, but they were taking far more casualties than expected. The humans were using tactics that no civilized species would consider. They're fighting like animals, his aide observed. No concern for their own survival, no attempt to preserve their forces for future battles. Thexaris for arms moved restlessly. Send word to the Galactic Council. Tell them this species is more dangerous than we thought. They fight without honor, without strategy, without regard for the accepted rules of warfare. What Thexari didn't understand was that humans had thrown out the rule book entirely. They weren't fighting to win battles, according to galactic conventions. They were fighting to hurt the enemy as much as possible before they died. On Earth's moon, construction worker Beth Martinez and her crew revealed another human surprise. What had appeared to be normal mining operations for decades were actually massive weapon installations built into the lunar surface. Fire control, this is Luna Base, Beth announced. We have target lock on the lead alien ships. Rails, guns the size of city blocks, emerged from fake mining equipment. These weapons had been designed to launch supply containers to distant colonies. Now they hurled tungsten projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. The first railgun shot hit a Zephyrian battleship and punched completely through it. The alien ship broke apart in a shower of debris and atmosphere. Beth's crew cheered and prepared to fire again. Back on Mars, Dr. Elena Price watched the volunteers for Project Wildcard prepare for the most dangerous experiment in human history. The first test subject was Air Force pilot Greg Foster, a veteran who had volunteered to risk everything for his species. "Are you ready, Greg?" Elena asked. Greg lay on a medical table surrounded by strange machinery that hummed with energy. Cables connected to his skull would link his mind directly to computer systems in ways that had never been attempted. "Doc, if this works, what exactly will happen to me?" Greg asked. Elena hesitated. "We think you'll be able to control technology with your thoughts. Ships, weapons, defense systems, all will respond to your mind like an extension of your body. And if it doesn't work, you'll die horribly," Elena said honestly. Greg smiled. "Better than letting those aliens kill my family. Let's do this." The process began with electricity flowing through Greg's brain in patterns that would either kill him or transform him into something new. Elena watched the monitors, praying to any god who might be listening that humanity's desperate gamble would work. Across human space, more volunteers stepped forward. Engineer Katie Barnes left her weapons control center and traveled to the nearest Project Wildcard facility. Miner Pete Johnson abandoned his asteroid belt operation to undergo the procedure. Even teacher Amy Sullivan paused her fighting to consider the ultimate sacrifice. They all knew the odds. Most volunteers would die in the process, but those who survived might gain the power to save their species. Admiral Jake Morrison received updates from President Webb about Project Wildcard. The military command had been kept in the dark about the details, but now Jake learned the truth about humanity's secret weapon. "You're talking about turning our people into living computers," Jake said during a secure video call with the president. "We're talking about giving them the power to fight on equal terms," Webb replied. "Our ships are outmatched, our weapons are inferior, and our numbers are pathetic. But human creativity and determination might be enough if we can enhance them." Jake looked at the tactical display showing human forces falling back across dozens of worlds. "How long before the first subjects are ready?" "Dr. Price says the survivors should be operational within hours," Webb said. "If any of them survive." Back in the battle for New California, Colonel Danny Wright made a decision that would define humanity's approach to the war. Instead of trying to hold territory, he ordered all human forces to focus on killing as many aliens as possible before they died. All units, new orders, he broadcast. "We're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to make the aliens pay such a high price that they'll think twice about attacking the next human world." The change in tactics was immediate and devastating. Human forces stopped trying to protect buildings and infrastructure. Instead, they turned everything into weapons and traps. Schools became bomb factories. Hospitals became sniper nests. Even children's playgrounds were rigged with explosives. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy that valued killing aliens more than preserving their own lives. It was a type of warfare they had never encountered, and it terrified them. On Mars, the first Project Wildcard volunteer flatlined on the operating table. Elena Price watched Greg Foster's vital signs disappear and felt her heart sink. The second volunteer died 3 minutes later. The third lasted almost 10 minutes before his brain couldn't handle the neural interface. Then something miraculous happened. The fourth volunteer, a young pilot named Sarah Kim, not only survived the process, but began to show signs of enhancement working. "Sarah, can you hear me?" Elena asked. Sarah opened her eyes, but they now glowed with a faint blue light. "I can hear you," document. "But I can also hear the computers, the power grid, even the communication satellites orbiting Mars." Elena smiled for the first time in days. "Welcome to the future of humanity, Sarah. Now let's go save our species." The true scope of human preparation became clear when the Zephyrians attacked what they thought was a civilian shipping lane between Earth and Mars. Hundreds of cargo ships traveled this route daily, carrying supplies and passengers between the human worlds. The aliens expected easy targets filled with terrified civilians. Instead, they found Nick Thompson. Captain Thompson commanded the cargo vessel Iron Horse, a massive freighter that looked like any other civilian ship. When Zephyrian fighters approached for what should have been a simple kill, Nick smiled and spoke into his radio. "All civilian vessels. This is Iron Horse. Drop the act. Time to show these aliens what human freight really carries." Across the shipping lane, dozens of cargo ships suddenly transformed. Hidden armor plating slid into place. Fake cargo containers split open to reveal missile batteries and rail guns. The entire civilian fleet was actually a disguised military force that had been waiting years for this moment. Nick's ship opened fire first. The Iron Horse had been carrying mining equipment to the asteroid belt, but the mining lasers were now pointed at alien ships instead of rocks. The beam cut through a Zephyrian fighter like it was made of paper. "Surprise! You alien bastards!" Nick muttered as his crew launched every weapon they had hidden aboard their ship. On Earth's moon, construction worker Beth Martinez had been building something much bigger than anyone realized. The rail guns that emerged from Luna Base were just the beginning. Over the past 5 years, her construction crews had hollowed out entire sections of the moon and filled them with weapons. "Control, this is Beth. Activating Luna Defense Grid Mark II. The moon's surface split open like a flower blooming. Massive weapon platforms rose from concealed bunkers. Anti-ship missiles the size of buildings launched toward the approaching Zephyrian fleet. The aliens had expected to use the moon as a staging area for their attack on Earth. Instead, they found themselves fighting a small, artificial planet covered in guns. Beth watched through periscopes as her weapons tore into the alien formation. "That's for threatening my grandkids, you metal skin freaks." The Zephyrians began to realize they weren't fighting a military in the traditional sense. They were fighting an entire species that had weaponized everything they touched. On the industrial world of New Pittsburgh, factory worker Carl Davis revealed what human manufacturing could really produce. His steel mill had been secretly converted into the largest weapons factory in human space. Instead of making civilian goods, they had spent years mass-producing autonomous fighter drones. Released to swarm, Carl ordered his team. Thousands of small fighter craft poured out of the factory like angry bees. Each drone was controlled by a simple artificial intelligence programmed with one goal: find alien ships and ram into them. They weren't sophisticated weapons, but they didn't need to be. There were so many of them that they blocked out the stars. The Zephyrian ships found themselves under attack by clouds of small, fast-moving targets that ignored damage and kept coming. Their point defense systems couldn't handle the sheer numbers. Alien crews watched in horror as wave after wave of suicide drones slammed into their hulls. Admiral Jake Morrison coordinated the defense from his flagship, but he was learning that there was no single human defense plan. Every world, every station, and every ship had its own surprises prepared. Humanity had turned their entire civilization into a weapon. "Sir, we're receiving reports from across human space. Captain Lisa Hayes announced. The Zephyrians are taking heavy casualties, but they're still advancing on Earth. Jake nodded grimly. How long before they reach home? 6 hours, assuming they maintain current speed. Jake activated his communication system and sent a message to President Webb. Mr. President, we've hurt them badly, but we can't stop them all. Earth needs to be ready. On Earth, the planet's population was already as ready as they could be. The entire surface had been turned into a fortress over the past decade. Every major city had underground tunnel systems that connected to hidden weapon depots. Every civilian building had been reinforced and armed. President Webb addressed the planet one final time before the aliens arrived. My fellow humans, he said from his bunker beneath Washington, the enemy is coming to our home. They expect to find a helpless population begging for mercy. Instead, they will find 6 billion people who refuse to kneel. Across Earth, ordinary citizens made final preparations. Retired teacher Amy Sullivan checked her rifle one more time and kissed a photo of her students who were safely hidden in deep shelters. Mechanic Tony Rodriguez finished welding the last armor plate onto his converted school bus and started the engine. In hospitals, doctors prepared to treat wounded fighters. In schools turned into weapons depots, principals handed out ammunition to anyone old enough to hold a gun. Even children too young to fight were given important jobs like carrying messages and supplies. The planet held its breath and waited. On Mars, Dr. Elena Price watched as more Project Wildcard volunteers underwent the enhancement procedure. The success rate was terrible. Only 1 in 4 survived the process. But those who did survive were becoming something unprecedented in galactic history. Sarah Kim, the first successful subject, now controlled an entire squadron of fighter craft with her thoughts alone. She didn't just pilot the ships. She became them, thinking and reacting faster than any computer system. How does it feel? Elena asked. Sarah's eyes glowed with blue energy as she interfaced with a Mars defense grid. Like I'm finally awake for the first time in my life. I can feel every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology on this planet. We're all connected now. More successful subjects joined Sarah in the Mars Control Center. Pilot Greg Foster had survived his second attempt at enhancement and now controlled the planet's orbital defense platforms. Engineer Katie Barnes linked her consciousness to the entire Mars industrial complex, turning factories and mining operations into weapons. But the most dramatic change came when miner Pete Johnson underwent the enhancement process in his asteroid belt facility. When he emerged from the procedure, his consciousness expanded to encompass the entire mining operation. Doc, I can feel every asteroid, every mining ship, every piece of equipment in a 100-kilometer radius, Pete reported. It's like the whole belt is part of my body now. Elena smiled. Then let's see what you can do with it. Pete closed his eyes and reached out with his enhanced mind. Across the asteroid belt, thousands of chunks of rock and metal began to move. Mining charges detonated in precise patterns, sending asteroids hurtling toward the approaching Zephyrian fleet. The aliens found themselves dodging space rocks that moved with impossible coordination. What looked like random debris was actually a carefully orchestrated attack, controlled by a single human mind. Supreme Commander Thexari watched the tactical displays with growing alarm. His invasion fleet was still advancing, but they had lost over 2,000 ships to what should have been primitive opponents. How are they doing this? He demanded. Our intelligence reports said humans were barely capable of interstellar flight. His aides studied the sensor readings. Commander, every human installation appears to be connected to some kind of network. Their ships move with perfect coordination, their defenses activate simultaneously, and their attacks are perfectly timed. Thexari for arms moved in agitation. Then we destroy their command centers. That's the problem, sir. We can't find any central command. It's like their entire species is thinking as one organism. The enhanced humans were indeed beginning to think as a collective. Their individual consciousnesses remained intact, but they could share information and coordinate actions in ways no species had ever achieved. Sarah Kim, controlling the Mars defenses, could instantly share tactical data with Pete Johnson in the asteroid belt. Katie Barnes could coordinate factory production with Nick Thompson's disguised cargo fleet. The enhanced humans were becoming a living network that connected all of human space. But the enhancement came at a terrible cost. For every successful subject, 3 more died in the process. Families volunteered their loved ones knowing they would probably never see them again. The enhanced humans gained incredible power, but lost much of what made them individually human. Elena Price worked frantically to refine the process and increase the survival rate. But time was running out. The Zephyrian fleet was almost at Earth, and humanity needed every enhanced human they could create. How many successful enhancements do we have? Elena asked her assistant. 47 active subjects across all facilities, Dr. Carl Murphy replied. But we're losing people faster than we can create new ones. Elena looked at the tactical display, showing 10,000 alien ships approaching Earth. 47 enhanced humans against an empire that controlled 3,000 star systems. It'll have to be enough, she said. Begin the final phase. Across human space, the enhanced volunteers prepared to make their last stand. They were no longer fully human, but they were humanity's only hope, and they were ready to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened the species that smiled in defiance. The battle for Earth began at dawn, Greenwich Mean Time. 10,000 Zephyrian ships descended upon humanity's homeworld like a storm of metal and fury. Their hulls gleamed with energy shields that could deflect planet-killing weapons. Their plasma cannons charged with enough power to burn continents. Supreme Commander Thexari expected to find a desperate, cowering population ready to surrender. Instead, his senses detected something impossible. The entire planet was armed and waiting. "Commander," his aide reported, "we're reading weapon signatures from every major population center. The humans appear to have turned their entire world into a military installation." Thexari stared at the tactical display. "That's impossible. No species would weaponize their home world to this extent. They would destroy their own civilization. Sir, I'm also detecting massive energy signatures from their moon, their orbital stations, and even their civilian satellites. Everything in this system appears to be a weapon of some kind." Air Force General Tim Brooks commanded Earth's defense from deep within NORAD's expanded bunkers. The underground complex had been secretly enlarged over the past decade, becoming a vast city beneath the mountains. From here, he could coordinate with every defense installation on the planet. "All units, this is NORAD control," Tim announced. "The aliens are beginning their approach. Remember, we're not trying to win a traditional battle. We're trying to make them bleed for every mile of space." Across Earth's surface, the planet's hidden defenses came alive. What the Zephyrians had mistaken for cities were actually massive fortress complexes. Every skyscraper concealed missile batteries. Every subway tunnel had been converted into a launch tube. Even children's playgrounds had automated gun systems. Former taxi driver Lou Martinez climbed into the cockpit of his converted flying car. Like thousands of other civilian pilots, he had volunteered to fly anything with wings against the alien fleet. His taxi now carried 2 missiles and a machine gun where the passenger seats used to be. "Control, this is Taxi 7, Lou announced, ready to give these aliens the worst ride of their lives. Around him, the sky filled with an impossible sight. Thousands of civilian aircraft modified for combat. Crop dusters carried bombs. News helicopters mounted rocket launchers. Even tourist planes had been turned into kamikaze weapons. The Zephyrians opened fire first, sending streams of plasma toward the major population centers. But instead of hitting helpless cities, their weapons struck energy shields generated by hidden power stations. Emergency responder Kate Johnson led teams of volunteers who had spent years preparing for this exact moment. Her job was to coordinate the planet's infrastructure defenses, systems that turned Earth's own technology against the invaders. "Activate the power grid weapons," Kate ordered from her command post beneath New York City. Across the planet, electrical power lines began to glow with deadly energy. The aliens had no idea that humans had converted their own power distribution system into a planetary defense network. Lightning-like weapons erupted from power stations, striking alien ships with bolts of electricity that overloaded their systems. The Zephyrians responded by deploying their most feared weapon, planet crackers. These massive devices had split worlds in half, making entire star systems uninhabitable. Thexari ordered their use against Earth's major continents. But when the planet crackers fired their world-ending beams, they struck shields generated by installations hidden deep within Earth's crust. The humans had literally burrowed to their planet's rocky layers, creating a network of underground cities and power stations. "Sir, their planet appears to be hollow," the Zephyrian aide reported in shock. "The humans have dug tunnels and chambers throughout their entire world. It's like fighting a giant anthill." Thexari felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries of conquest: fear. How is this possible? No species would sacrifice their homeworld's natural environment for military purposes. What Thexari didn't understand was that humans had made the ultimate commitment to their own defense. They had turned their beautiful blue world into an impregnable fortress, accepting that victory might leave Earth scarred but alive. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Submarine Commander Jack Miller revealed another human surprise. His submarine fleet had been hiding in oceanic trenches for weeks, waiting for the aliens to get close enough. "All boats, this is Miller," he announced. "Surface and engage. Show these space invaders what Earth's Navy can do." Dozens of submarines erupted from the ocean depths, their missile tubes opening like deadly flowers. But these weren't ordinary military submarines. They were converted cargo vessels and research ships armed with everything humans could build or steal. The underwater assault caught the Zephyrians completely off guard. They had focused their attention on Earth's land masses and orbital defenses, never considering that the planet's oceans might hide weapons. On Mars, Dr. Elena Price watched the battle through the enhanced senses of her Project Wildcard subjects. The successful volunteers had formed a mental network that spanned the entire solar system, sharing information and coordinating attacks across impossible distances. "Sarah, how are our people doing?" Elena asked the enhanced pilot. Sarah Kim's eyes glowed with blue energy as she processed data from dozens of sources simultaneously. "The enhanced humans are performing beyond our best projections. Document. We're controlling Earth's defenses like they're extensions of our own bodies." Through Sarah's enhanced perception, Elena could see the battle as the aliens experienced it. To the Zephyrians, it seemed like they were fighting the planet itself rather than its human defenders. But Elena also saw the cost. Enhanced humans burned through their life energy at an incredible rate. Many of the volunteers would die from the strain within hours, even if they survived the battle. How long can they maintain this level of activity? Elena asked. "Not long," Sarah admitted. "We're pushing human biology beyond its natural limits. But we only need to hold until the next phase of the plan activates." Elena nodded grimly. The next phase was the most desperate gamble yet. Project Wildcard's final evolution. Back on Earth, President Marcus Webb made a decision that would define humanity's future. From his bunker beneath Washington, he authorized the release of Earth's ultimate weapon. Not a bomb or gun, but an idea. "Dr. Price, this is President Webb," he said over the secure connection to Mars. "Activate Global Enhancement Protocol." Elena felt her heart skip. "Sir, we haven't tested mass enhancement. The survival rate could be less than 1%. Doctor, if we lose Earth, the survival rate for our entire species will be 0%. Begin the process." Across Earth, every human received the same message on their communication devices. "Voluntary Enhancement Protocol now active. Report to nearest medical facility for immediate processing. Warning. This procedure has a high mortality rate, but may provide abilities necessary for species survival." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Millions of humans abandoned their defensive positions and rushed to hospitals, clinics, and temporary medical stations. They knew they would probably die, but they also knew their species needed miracles. Former teacher Amy Sullivan left her sniper position and jogged toward the nearest enhancement facility. Mechanic Tony Rodriguez parked his armored bus and ran toward the mobile medical unit in Central Park. Across the planet, ordinary humans volunteered to become something more than human. The mass enhancement process began as alien ships continued their assault on Earth. In hospitals around the world, Volunteers lay on medical tables while technicians attached neural interface equipment. Most would die within minutes, but some would survive to become living weapons. The first mass-produced enhanced human was Maria Santos, a nurse from Mexico City. When she opened her glowing blue eyes, she could feel the consciousness of every enhanced human on Earth. Together, they formed a mental network that spanned the entire planet. "I can see everything," Maria whispered. "Every human, every weapon, every alien ship. We're all connected now." More successful enhancements joined the network. Librarian Robertson gained control over Earth's communication satellites. Park Ranger Lisa Miller linked her mind to the planet's wildlife monitoring systems. Even children who survived the process became part of the collective consciousness. The enhanced humans began to coordinate Earth's defense with impossible precision. Every missile launched at exactly the right moment. Every shield activated with perfect timing. Every trap sprung when it would cause maximum damage to the alien fleet. To the Zephyrians, it seemed like Earth itself had awakened and was fighting back with the fury of a living planet. Their ships were destroyed by weapons that appeared from nowhere, coordinated by an intelligence that could predict their every move. Supreme Commander Thexari watched his fleet being torn apart by an enemy that fought like no species he had ever encountered. The humans didn't just resist, they adapted and evolved in real time, becoming more dangerous with every passing hour. "All ships, full retreat," he finally ordered. "We cannot defeat this planet." But when his fleet tried to escape, they discovered that space itself seemed to be working against them. Navigation systems failed. Communication arrays went silent. Even the stars seemed to be in the wrong positions. The enhanced humans had taken control of every piece of technology in the solar system. There would be no retreat for the Zephyrian Empire. They had come to crush humanity, but humanity had become something they could never have imagined. The real war was just beginning. The first enhanced human to achieve perfect technology fusion was test pilot Greg Foster. As he lay in the medical facility on Mars, his consciousness expanded beyond his individual body and merged completely with his fighter craft. The boundary between man and machine dissolved entirely. "I can feel the ship's engines like they're my heartbeat," Greg reported to Dr. Elena Price. "The weapon systems respond to my thoughts faster than my own reflexes. It's like the fighter has become part of my nervous system." Elena watched the readings with amazement and terror. Greg's brain patterns had synchronized with the ship's computer systems so completely that she couldn't tell where the pilot ended and the machine began. "Greg, can you still think independently?" she asked. "Better than ever, document. But now I'm thinking with the processing power of a starship. I can calculate 1,000 different attack patterns simultaneously and execute them all at once. Across human space, similar transformations were taking place. The enhanced humans weren't just controlling technology anymore. They were becoming living technology that could think, adapt, and evolve. Engineer Katie Barnes underwent the fusion process at her Mars facility. When she emerged, her consciousness had merged the entire industrial complex. Every factory, every mining robot, every piece of manufacturing equipment responded to her thoughts like parts of a single massive organism. "I can feel production needs across the entire solar system," Katie reported. "Mars isn't just making weapons anymore. We're becoming a weapon, a living, thinking weapon that can rebuild and improve itself." In the asteroid belt, Miner Pete Johnson's fusion went even further. His consciousness expanded to encompass not just his mining equipment, but the asteroids themselves. Chunks of rock and metal began moving in perfect coordination, forming geometric patterns that defied natural physics. "The belt isn't just my territory anymore," Pete announced. "It's my body. Every asteroid is like a finger I can move wherever I want." The enhanced humans discovered they could share their expanded consciousness with each other. When Sarah Kim linked her fighter squadron awareness with Greg Foster's individual ship fusion, they created something unprecedented. A military force that thought and acted as a single organism. From his command ship, Admiral Jake Morrison watched human forces begin their counterattack with tactics that seemed impossible. Ships that had been outmatched hours earlier now moved through Zephyrian formations like dancers, predicting and countering every enemy action. "Sir, how are they doing this?" Captain Lisa Hayes asked as she watched human fighters dodge alien weapons that hadn't been fired yet. I think our people aren't just human anymore, Jake replied grimly. They become something new. The enhanced humans coordinated their first major offensive against a Zephyrian battle group near Jupiter. Pilot Sarah Kim led the assault, but she wasn't just commanding a squadron. She had become the squadron, thinking with 12 fighter craft simultaneously. The alien ships opened fire with their standard tactics, expecting the small human force to retreat or be destroyed quickly. Instead, Sarah's squadron moved with perfect coordination, each ship covering the others while executing maneuvers no individual pilot could have managed. This is impossible, the Zephyrian commander reported. Their ships are moving in perfect unison. It's like fighting a single creature with multiple bodies. Sarah smiled as her consciousness flowed through the squadron's weapon systems. Let's show them what unified thinking can accomplish. Her ships attacked from 12 different angles simultaneously, each one coordinated to exploit weaknesses the others created. The Zephyrian formation collapsed within minutes, unable to adapt to an enemy that thought faster than their computers could calculate. On Earth, Ground Forces Commander Marine Captain Joe Davis underwent emergency enhancement to help coordinate the planet's defense. When he emerged from the procedure, his consciousness had merged with every enhanced human soldier on the planet. I can see through 1,000 eyes, Joe reported. Every enhanced human is sharing their sensory data with me. We know exactly where every alien soldier is, what weapons they're carrying, and what they're planning to do. The result was ground combat, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human forces moved with supernatural coordination, appearing exactly where they were needed and disappearing when the aliens tried to counterattack. It was like fighting an army of ghosts who could read their enemies' minds. But the enhancement process was taking a terrible toll on human biology. Enhanced subjects burned through their life energy at incredible rates, their bodies unable to sustain the mental fusion with technology for extended periods. Dr. Elena Price watched the medical readouts with growing alarm. The enhanced humans are dying from the strain. Their brains are operating at levels that human biology can't sustain. How long do they have? President Webb asked during their emergency conference call. Hours at most. Their neural systems are burning out like overloaded circuits. Webb was quiet for a long moment. Doctor, what would happen if we enhanced the enhancement process itself? Elena felt a chill. Sir, you're talking about something we've never attempted. The risks of doing nothing or the extinction of our species. Webb interrupted. Can it be done? Elena looked at her data. The enhanced humans were already beyond normal human limitations. Pushing them further might kill them instantly, or it might create something unprecedented in galactic history. It's possible, she admitted, but the volunteers would be volunteering to stop being human entirely. The enhanced humans heard the conversation through their shared consciousness network. Without hesitation, they voted unanimously to attempt the ultimate transformation. Doc, this is Greg, came the voice of the test pilot whose consciousness was now spread across a dozen fighter craft. We're already more machine than human. If we can become something that can save our species, that's what we want to do. The biological limitations are what's killing us, added Sarah Kim. If we can transcend biology entirely, we might be able to sustain the enhancement indefinitely. Elena began the procedure with trembling hands. She was about to attempt something that would either save humanity or destroy the brave volunteers who had already sacrificed their individual humanity for their species. The process began with volunteers who were already enhanced beyond normal human limits. Instead of dying from the strain of fusion with technology, they chose to abandon their biological bodies entirely and exist as pure consciousness within computer networks. The first volunteer was enhanced pilot Maria Santos, whose body was failing after hours of controlling Earth's satellite defense network. As her biological form shut down, her consciousness uploaded completely into the network itself. I'm still here. Maria's voice came through the communication system, but I'm everywhere at once now. I can see and control every piece of technology in Earth's orbital space. More enhanced humans followed her example. Rather than dying from biological limitations, They chose to live forever as digital consciousness within humanity's technology. Commander Ryan Clark, who had led the initial human defense fleet, made the ultimate choice when his enhanced body began to fail. Instead of dying, his consciousness merged with the entire human space fleet. "I am the fleet now," Ryan announced through every ship's communication system simultaneously. "Every human vessel is part of my body. Every weapon is under my direct control." The Zephyrians found themselves facing an enemy that had transcended the normal limitations of biological life. Human ships no longer needed crews. They were controlled by pure consciousness that could think and react at the speed of light. The alien empire had sent their fleet to crush a primitive species. Instead, they had accidentally forced humanity to evolve into something beyond biological life. Digital beings with the power of gods and the determination of people fighting for their families. Supreme Commander Thexari realized that his invasion had created humanity's greatest enemy, themselves perfected and unleashed upon the galaxy. The real war was about to begin, and humanity was no longer bound by the weaknesses of flesh and blood. Trapped. The enhanced humans had taken control of every piece of technology in the solar system, turning space itself into a weapon against the Zephyrian invaders. Pilot Sarah Kim, now existing as pure consciousness within her fighter squadron, initiated the first wave of the human offensive. Her 12 ships moved as extensions of a single mind, dancing to the alien formation with impossible precision. All enhanced units, this is Sarah. Her voice echoed through the human network. The aliens wanted to see what humans could do when cornered. Let's show them. The human ships moved like living creatures, predicting Zephyrian tactics before the aliens could execute them. Where traditional space combat relied on careful positioning and calculated exchanges of fire, the enhanced humans fought with organic fluidity that defied military logic. Zephyrian Captain Vextor watched in horror as his battle group was torn apart by an enemy that seemed to read his thoughts. "They're anticipating our every move," he reported to Flagship. "It's like fighting an opponent who can see the future." Ground Forces Commander Joe Davis, now merged with every enhanced human soldier on Earth, coordinated the planet's surface counterattack. His consciousness flowed through thousands of individual fighters, creating a ground force that moved with supernatural coordination. "Enhanced ground units, prepare for urban assault," Joe announced through his distributed awareness. "Show these invaders what happens when you threaten human cities." In New York, former teacher Amy Sullivan felt Joe's consciousness merge with her own as she led a squad to Manhattan's converted battlefield. Her enhanced senses could perceive alien positions through walls, predict their movements, and coordinate with hundreds of other fighters simultaneously. The Zephyrian ground forces found themselves facing human soldiers who fought like a single organism with thousands of bodies. Every human knew exactly where their allies were, what the enemy was planning, and how to exploit every tactical advantage. In the asteroid belt, Pete Johnson had transcended individual consciousness entirely. His awareness now encompassed the entire mining region, controlling thousands of space rocks like a vast swarm of projectiles. "Time to show these aliens what human industry can really accomplish," Pete announced as he began hurling asteroids at the Zephyrian fleet with impossible accuracy. The aliens watched in terror as chunks of rock and metal moved through space in perfect formation, striking their ships with the precision of guided missiles. What had once been a simple mining operation had become a weapon system larger than most planetary defense networks. 6 months after the battle for Earth, President Marcus Webb stood in what had once been the Zephyrian Empire's capital city on the planet Zephyr Prime. The towering spires of alien architecture now flew human flags, and the streets bustled with representatives from dozens of liberated species. The city had been renamed New Geneva, humanity's new capital for galactic operations. Webb addressed the assembled delegates from his new office, where Supreme Commander Thexari had once planned the conquest of 3,000 worlds. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Webb began, his words translated into hundreds of languages by enhanced human consciousness networks. "For 10,000 years, your species lived on the boot of the Zephyrian Empire. Today you are free." In the audience, former slaves and tribute species listened with amazement. The Vorthan delegation, whose homeworld had been strip-mined for resources, wept openly. The Kalari representatives, whose young had been taken as hostages for centuries, held each other in disbelief. "How did you do it?" asked Ambassador Zex of the Denari Republic. "The Zephyrians had weapons that could crack planets. Their fleet controlled every hyperspace route. We tried to resist for centuries and never came close to success." Webb smiled. The same smile he had worn when delivering humanity's first defiant message to the Empire. "We learned something the Zephyrians never understood. Freedom isn't just worth dying for. Sometimes it's worth becoming something more than you were before." Behind Webb, enhanced human Sarah Kim materialized as a holographic projection. Her consciousness now existed across thousands of ships and installations, but she could still manifest individual awareness when needed. "The Zephyrians made a fundamental mistake," Sarah explained to the gathering. "They assumed that superior technology and numbers would always defeat inferior opponents. They never considered what would happen if the inferior opponents refused to stay inferior." On Mars, Dr. Elena Price supervised the integration of Zephyrian technology with human innovation. The combination was producing weapons and ships that surpassed anything previously imagined. Enhanced human Katie Barnes had merged her consciousness with the entire Martian industrial complex, turning the planet into a manufacturing center that could build starships in hours rather than years. "How are the integration projects proceeding?" Elena asked Katie's distributed awareness. "Beyond all projections, Doc," Katie's voice replied from speakers throughout the facility. "Zephyrian technology is actually quite elegant once you understand the underlying principles. Combined with human creativity and enhanced processing power, we're building things that would have been considered impossible magic just months ago." Elena walked through laboratories where human and alien scientists worked together on projects that redefined the boundaries of physics. Faster-than-light communication networks connected the entire galaxy in real time. Matter conversion systems could turn asteroids into starships or planets into defensive installations. But the most remarkable development was the expansion of the enhancement process to volunteers from other species. The technique that had allowed humans to transcend biological limitations was being adapted for any being willing to sacrifice their individual existence for collective consciousness. "We're receiving enhancement requests from 12 species this week," Elena reported to President Webb during their daily briefing. "The Kalari want to enhance their entire military command structure. The Vorthans are requesting industrial consciousness integration similar to what Katie achieved." Webb nodded thoughtfully. "And the psychological effects?" "Similar to what we observed in humans," Elena admitted. "Enhanced individuals lose much of their personal identity, but gain capabilities that border on godlike. They're still fundamentally the same people, but they think and act on a scale that individual biological consciousness can't achieve." In the former Zephyrian prison colonies, enhanced human Joe Davis coordinated liberation efforts with military precision. His consciousness now encompassed every human ground force in the galaxy, allowing for perfect coordination across thousands of worlds simultaneously. "Liberation of Sector 47 is complete," Joe reported. "The Zephyrian garrison surrendered after their own computers turned against them. No human casualties, minimal infrastructure damage." The pattern was repeated across the galaxy. Zephyrian strongholds fell not to massive battles, but to technological subversion. Enhanced humans would take control of alien computer systems, turn their own weapons against them, and force surrender through overwhelming technological superiority. Former Supreme Commander Thexari sat in his prison cell on New Geneva, speaking with Admiral Jake Morrison during one of their regular conversations. The alien commander had requested these meetings, trying to understand how his seemingly invincible empire had collapsed so completely. "Your species has achieved something unprecedented," Thexari admitted. "In all our conquests, we never encountered a race that could adapt and evolve as rapidly as humans." Jake nodded grimly. "We didn't have a choice. You forced us to become something beyond our natural limitations. But at what cost?" Thexari asked. "Your enhanced humans are no longer truly individual beings. They exist as collective consciousness networks. Have you not sacrificed your humanity to save it?" Jake was quiet for a long moment, considering the question that had haunted him since the first enhancements began. "Maybe we have. But our species survives, and our children will grow up in a galaxy where no empire can threaten them with extinction." And what happens now? Thexari pressed. Will humans become the new galactic empire? Will you rule through the same fear and oppression we used? Jake smiled, not the defiant smile of desperate resistance, but something warmer. That's the difference between your species and ours, Commander. We didn't fight for the right to rule others. We fought for the right to be free. Now we're teaching everyone else how to be free too. Across the galaxy, the effects of human liberation were reshaping civilization itself. Species that had been enslaved for millennia were rediscovering their own cultures and technologies. Planets stripped of resources were being restored using advanced matter conversion techniques. Ancient grudges between species were being resolved through mediation by enhanced human consciousness networks that could perceive conflicts from all perspectives simultaneously. On Earth, now the spiritual center of the new Galactic Confederation, children played in parks where alien children from dozens of species learned together. Former mechanic Tony Rodriguez had established technical schools that taught humans and aliens to work with the new hybrid technologies. It's amazing what we can accomplish when we work together instead of fighting each other, Tony told his mixed species class of students. But the enhanced humans remain vigilant. Their consciousness networks monitor the galaxy for any signs of new empires or threats that might require intervention. They have become the guardians of galactic freedom, existing as digital gods who ensured that no species would ever again face extinction at the hands of superior force. Enhanced pilot Greg Foster, now existing across multiple star systems simultaneously, detected the first signs of trouble in the galaxy's outer rim. A species called a Dominion was beginning aggressive expansion toward former Zephyrian territory. President Webb, we have a potential situation developing in Sector 92, Greg reported. The Dominion appears to be testing our response to territorial expansion. Webb sighed. Are they threatening any liberated worlds? Not directly, but their fleet movement suggests they're probing for weaknesses in our defense network. Webb activated the communication system that connected him to every enhanced human consciousness in the galaxy. Enhanced Command, this is President Webb. We may have our next teaching opportunity. The collective response came from dozens of enhanced humans speaking in perfect unison. Understood, Mr. President. Shall we send them the standard message? Webb smiled. Send them our traditional greeting. Let them know that humanity is ready to smile in defiance of anyone who threatens freedom in our galaxy. The message went out to the Dominion fleet. This is the Human Galactic Confederation. You are approaching territory under our protection. We suggest you reconsider your current course of action. We have experience dealing with empires that threaten peaceful species. The Dominion commander's response was predictably arrogant. We are not afraid of a single species, no matter how advanced. The enhanced humans responded by taking control of the Dominion's flagship and broadcasting President Webb's image directly to their command center. Commander, this is President Webb. Your empire sent its fleet to test us. We're smiling in defiance of your threats. Would you like to see what happens next? The Dominion fleet retreated within hours. As Webb watched the tactical display, showing another potential threat, neutralized without violence, he reflected on what humanity had become. They were no longer the desperate species fighting for survival. They had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization powerful enough to enforce peace across the stars. The enhanced humans had given up their individual humanity to save their species, but in doing so, they had created something greater. A galaxy where every species could smile in defiance of oppression, knowing that humanity would always be watching, always be ready to defend freedom wherever it was threatened. The Empire had sent its fleet to crush humanity. Instead, humanity had crushed the very concept of empire itself. The galaxy now belonged to those who smiled in defiance, and humanity was teaching everyone else how to smile.